Every story has an ending. Does our quest to play the top 100 courses in 10 years have a good ending? I'm Nish.
I'm Jim.
And we're here to guide you through this golfing journey. This is the Top 110 Golf Podcast. Episode 17, The Return of the Back Pain Help. It's terrible. They say you should always leave your audience wanting more. That's what we did when we did our first episode with our official Top 110 physio, Denika. So she's back like vertebrae with a jam-packed episode. And we'll be covering some general advice for the start of the season. It's going to be a really, really good physio-approved warm-up routine. And then we're going to go into a bit of a Q&A where we'll answer some of your questions. So the time is nearly upon us. Golf season's going to be around in any second now, really. I mean, you can get out there and play, I suppose, now. But with it being the dead of winter right now, you need to make sure that you get yourself nice and warm and limber and all that kind of thing. Yeah. So do you have any general advice for people? You know, you've gone through a period of inactivity into how to get back into it.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me back.
Well, you're very welcome.
Very honoured to be back a second time. So yeah, I think the big thing is if you've had Christmas period where you've been out of action, maybe overindulging, as we all do.
Definitely.
And you've been out of exercise for a little while. As a physio, we tend to see people if you've either overdone it or you've overdone it or underdone it. So if you're going straight back into your golf without any exercise at all, then you're more likely to cause yourself a bit of a mishap. So something as simple as getting cardiovascular fitness improved, brisk walking. So if you're not a runner, doesn't matter. It could be that you're into cycling. Something to elevate the heart rate is always really useful. But also thinking about warm-ups. Now it's interesting because I'm not a golfer, but you guys were saying it's making the time for that warm-up. So especially, you know, if you're going to be playing a good few hours, you want to make sure that you're not putting yourself at risk of shoulder, back injuries. So there's different bits we can have a talk through in terms of warm-up and mobility exercises that you can spend as little or as long as you want, but even just doing literally 5 minutes of a warm-up is enough to just get things activated and hopefully reduce the occurrence of any injuries.
So do you think that's a really key thing to do then, doing a warm-up?
Yeah.
You know, going straight into it's not really the right thing to go about it. Right, okay.
You'll get some people who probably say, do you know what, I never do a warm-up and I've been injury-free and I'm totally fine. Brilliant. But for most people, if you are deconditioned, you've been out of exercise for even just for a couple of weeks, if you're not doing your warm-up, then it might be that you get that little niggle, and all through the season you're like, oh, do you know what, I've played around there and I've just got that little niggle. And sometimes it'll just stay as a little niggle, but sometimes, especially as we're getting a little bit older, I'm not looking around the room at all.
I mean, there's not going to be a third time, is there?
Older and wiser, of course.
Well, maybe not if you're not doing your warm-up.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, as we get older, in the body there's many different structures, but especially tendon. So tendon health, as we get older, you can be prone to getting things like tendinitis, tendinopathies, especially like shoulder. You've got your rotator cuff, which is a massive group of 4 muscles. So again, with that swinging action, if you're not warming up your shoulder, or you've got poor shoulder mobility, and then you're trying to get, when you're swinging that amount of force through it, then you might be more prone to having issues. You'll get some people say, oh, I've never had any issues. But yeah, I think as a physio, we tend to see people with shoulder problems, back problems related to patients I've had with golfing injuries. So yeah, doing a warm-up would hopefully, you can never say you're never going to have an injury, but it should minimise the risk of picking up those niggles.
Yeah, interesting, isn't it, that? I think you don't prioritise that, I don't think, as a golfer turning up. I mean, we're in I suppose we should say this for posterity, because this is out there in the ether now and everybody will know about this, but we're actually filming on location today and recording on location. We're at Jim's flat.
It's lovely. And
it's massive, so I can understand how he probably will run late now because it'll take him ages to find all of his gear. But
think they can't beat it, it's fine.
you would not believe how long it took me to try and segue your new flat into the into the script. But yeah, I think we do it plenty of times. I mean, I'll habitually I'm calling Jim 10 minutes before the tee time, like, I'm pretty sure you remember that we are playing today, but you are on your way, aren't you? You know, that kind of thing. I'm not worried about his warm up. Don't worry. But, yeah, I think, yeah, I suppose it's only 5 minutes, isn't it? Just making 5 minutes to do
Yeah,
a
that's
warm up
it.
would be.
Yeah, and the whole idea of it wants to be functional to what you're doing. So we're going to do a little filming of it later, but using your golf club as part of your warm up is really easy. So there's like maybe 4 or 5 kind of key exercises we'll go through, but that'll look at focusing on like shoulder mobility, spine, hips, just getting used to that. I think the big thing with golf is the amount of force and rotation going through your spine and through the body. So just doing a few simple exercises just to try and get those areas moving and mobile, because it's also interesting, through the week, if you have got, you might have an active job, brilliant, you're up on your feet, but if you're in a sedentary job as well, where you sat at a desk or you sat working from home, your spine's not really doing much with itself, then you're going to go off for a few hours playing golf, then actually give you back that little bit of mobility and movement before you get into the swing of things.
Swing.
She wasn't talking about us with, working.
The working, and I was going to say, but she was definitely talking about us with the advancing years, wasn't she?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
No doubt. So,
Wiser though,
It's-
older and wiser.
Interesting though, because
too late.
what you mentioned before about tendons. So what is it about? Is it the type of tissue that it is?
Yeah,
What?
so it's interesting. So your tendon tissue is basically a lot of protein in there, but your tendon fibers, I can't get the word out, the tendon fibers, basically over time as we age, and this happens to everyone regardless of injuries, you've basically got like your tendon fibers which are quite tight, and as we get a bit older, those tendon fibers, they can become infiltrated with kind of inflammation, with water, and basically what that does then is it reduces the tensile structure of the tendon. So as we all get older, that process will be happening. So if you did a scan, it was really interesting actually, and they've done it with discs in the spine as well. So if you scanned everyone in their 40s, people with no back pain will show signs of the disc material dehydrated or potential disc bulges,
Right.
but they're walking around, they don't know about it. For a percentage then of people, they'll have that disc dehydration or that tendon issue, and they will start getting pain from it. So yeah, tendons in particular can be prone to, if you're again overdoing it, inflammation in that area. So that's where the itis comes from, so tendonitis, or your epicondylitis.
Yeah, that was great
The
advice, by the
elbow.
way. That
Yeah,
braces really helped.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's looking at ways we can't stop the aging process, but what are the things we can do to manage, kind of minimize the pain that we're getting.
I
And
mean,
it's normal after any kind of activity to have that little bit of aching the next day. And in a way, it's good because it's a good sign that our body is being used and it's working. So we called it DOMS, delayed onset muscle soreness. You'll know that, Jim, from the gym.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Feeling it
Which,
today.
yeah,
After yesterday.
that's it. But that's a good sign because what happens with the DOMS is, so you exercise the muscle, and again, your muscle's got fibers, and over the course of doing that workout and the next 24 hours, the muscle breaks down and then it builds up again. And as it's building up again, that's where it builds its strength. So yeah, so basically, you just want to make sure that you're doing enough activity to get that muscle rebuild without then overdoing it to the point where you're getting that inflammation and that water kind of infiltrating the area, and that in itself can cause pain then as well.
And then in terms of, is that important then to make sure that you've got the right diet? So you've got high protein, you'll be doing weights to make sure that it
Yeah.
actually, when the muscle grows back
Yeah.
at that particular time, that it does with all the nutrients that it needs.
Yeah, and it's really interesting that with diet, because people will always say, what supplements should I take? What would be useful? And do you know what? There's a million and one things that you can take, like your creatines, your protein shakes, but just making sure you've got a good balanced diet. So making sure for your weight, you're eating the right amount of protein. That's something you can do. And then I think we might have touched on this last time, but I did a nutrition module as part of my sports rehab course years ago, and milk. So they looked at different. Do you remember we were saying about this? So they looked at different types of protein supplements like whey, creatine powders, different things, and they looked at it with Olympic athletes, and the one that had the best effect was milk, because it's got a protein called casein in it. So within half an hour of your chosen activity, have a glass of milk, and that's a good way to bump up your protein.
Is that whole milk specifically?
Whole milk you can use, yeah. You could probably use semi-skim, but whole milk would be better just because it's got probably all the right bits in
And
there.
if you're an Olympic athlete, you're going to burn off the fat anyway, aren't you?
Yeah,
So.
exactly.
Casein and the Sunshine Band. There you go.
Oh, no.
Told you I was in charge of the puns. I mean, that class thing really.
Yeah, how did you get
it
on
got
with
me through a
that?
very rigorous club fitting.
Right.
You didn't know what I was going to say then.
I dreaded to think, really.
Yeah, because I mean, we came out of that club fitting and we did like 200 balls in about an hour and
Wow.
15 minutes, and we both just, well, I mean, probably shouldn't admit it, but because it's just golf, but we were sweating, weren't we? We were really warm.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't have to be told to stop and have a breast and have a break.
Yeah,
Have a break.
he
in some
actually said to me, "Have a break if you like." So I
Did
must have looked
he?
really goose.
Like that.
The problem was I was wearing a thick gilet because it was cold outside, but it was
Yeah.
lovely and warm inside, and I was like,
Didn't need it.
and I didn't really. The t-shirt was too tight, so I
Yeah.
wasn't gonna take that off. So I was basically just wearing like a duvet.
Yeah.
I was doing my
No
club
wonder
fitting.
you warm.
No wonder I could hit the ball so far. It was great. Well, look, I think we've established I'm a last minute person. We've established Jim's a last minute person, but we can also understand that there'll be a lot of people who aren't, and they want something a bit meatier from a warm up routine. So
yeah.
we obviously covered that in the last episode a little bit.
Yeah.
I think you said even just rolling your shoulders back
That's
is a good
it.
start.
Yeah, just doing some shoulder rolls, and even just in the day, if you are at your desk or you're just sat at home, we can all be in that little kind of hunched posture and not realize, especially when you're focusing on concentrating. So just doing a few shoulder rolls and just think about rolling your shoulders up, down, and almost like pulling your shoulder blades down. And that in itself is just nice. I mean, I'm just doing it there. It's lovely just to squeeze and give everything a good stretch as well. But yeah.
I'll edit that out, Jim. Nobody wants to hear that. Ooh, that's good.
Leave it in.
Leave it in. Yeah. Okay. Well, you've given us as part of our sort of mobility warm up thing. You've certainly given me 6 sort of exercises. I just wonder if you might be able to sort of describe them to people and you know, and hopefully we can have an idea of how long that might take if you're just waiting on the tee, even for somebody else to tee off, if you can do that. So
and that's it.
Far away, Denika.
It'd be really good. You could do this as a warm up, but also if you're playing with a few people, there's nothing to stop you from doing a few of these on the way around as well, just to keep yourself supple and mobile. So you'll need a club, not a golf stick, as I was calling them. A golf club. For these exercises, which you'll have as you're playing. And the big thing is thinking about that posture. So we'd, again, roll the shoulders, set that nice posture. You want a little bit of a softness in your knees, and you're thinking about keeping as if someone's got a little piece of string on the top of your head and pulling you up nice and tall. So you're keeping just that lovely length through the spine then. So for the first one, you're going to hold it in both hands, so you've got a good grip. Start with your hands down by your thighs, and then you're literally just going to lift up the golf club. Now, where people will go wrong is they'll think more is better. So they'll really lift it, but what they'll start doing is arching the back. And what that's doing then is it's not isolating the shoulder enough.
Right.
So if you're keeping that nice, long, tall spine, bringing the golf club up, you might even get halfway and you're like, oh, right.
And that's with straight arms.
And that's with straight arms. So try and think about keeping just a little bit of softness in the elbow, but relatively straight. And as you're coming up, then what it's going to do is just give the shoulder a bit of a stretch, your pec muscles around the chest a little bit of a stretch, but you shouldn't feel that you're excessively leaning back. When we do the video, we can go through a few little hints and tips for that. You want to hold it up at the top for about 5 seconds and then nice and slowly come down. And probably doing about 5 of those is enough. If you wanted to do a few more and you've got the time, brilliant. But that's just a nice way to start opening up your chest as well, because I suppose with the swinging, you might be prone to getting a little bit tight around there as well. So yeah, so that's the first one. Second one then, we're going to do the opposite movement. So this time, again, shoulders rolled down and back, that length through the spine. We're going to hold the club behind us in both hands. So from here, again, you're wanting to push back. So it's going to help open up the shoulders, open up the chest. With all of these as well, nice relaxed breathing, because if you're pushing and you're holding your breath, you're not getting that nice relaxation as well. And again, where people will go wrong is as they push back, they'll tip forward thinking, oh great, I'm getting loads more movement here, but you're not, you're cheating. So you want to keep that nice tall spine, pushing back with the club, and you can feel, even just doing it without a club, you can feel a nice stretch there through your arms and your chest. And again, doing at least 5 of those just to try and get things going. So that's number 2. And then the third one, we're doing like a deadlift movement. So Jim, you'll be well versed in these from the gym.
Quite a few yesterday.
There we go. And the idea.
I don't know if has it become clear that Jim went to the gym yesterday?
I don't think
so. Has that been mentioned? I don't know if. Did you do legs by any chance yesterday? I love it.
But again, deadlifts are brilliant. This is more mobility, but obviously if you had a bit of weight behind it, then it's more strengthening. So again, you want that softness in the knees, especially with the deadlift, you want to keep that length through the spine. You'd have hold of your club in front of your thighs, and then you're literally just hinging at the hip. So again, I always think it, in the 80s, there was that little duck that would sit on people's desk and it'd
lean
like
forwards,
bob
yeah.
into the water and back again. Think of that type of motion. So again, we'll demonstrate on the video, but nice and kind of hinging at the hip, keeping the length through the spine, and then coming back up again. So you basically sliding the golf club from the front of the thigh down to like your knee or your shin if you've got the mobility, and then back up again. And breathing wise for this one, you can breathe out on the way down and then breathe in on the way up. And that's just a really nice way to just get core muscles, your spine, all that area just nice and mobile.
It's a good Simpsons reference in that little thing there.
Yeah,
as well.
I don't know what it was called.
Homer
The little...
was working from home,
Yeah,
safety
yeah.
officer, and he's just got the thing just to press yes.
That's it, yeah.
To vent the steam, and then it didn't, and then it went and exploded.
Well, it's quite relevant nowadays because obviously since people have been working from home a hell of a lot more since as a result of COVID.
Moving your mouse.
Or doing that on the space bar, so it actually shows when everyone's on Teams that you're active.
But there's
You've got a green dot, and no one's going to ring you to say, where are you? You've been an orange for 20 minutes now.
Yeah.
There's another Simpsons reference going on as well, like very, very like in the background. So podcasting 101 is don't have a clock in view of your video recording. Because if you edit it, the time's going to move around, isn't it?
Oh, right.
Well, what have we got right behind over your shoulder?
Oh, hello.
it's a clock. That's what it is.
TikTok.
Yeah. So the eagle-eyed people will be able to know when the editing.
What bits have been chopped out.
I love it.
You just can't edit it. You'll have to do this as the unedited edition.
Oh no. I know how many times I say so I think I'll have to do something with that.
So then we've got a little bit, so we've done plenty of shoulder stuff, we've done something for the spine. Another spine one is a bit of rotation. So basically you're going to take your club, holding it behind the head. Again, sometimes you might find that your body wants to flex forward if you're a little bit stiff, so do your best to be as upright as you can, and then you just literally slowly turning side to side. So that bit the deadlift is more for lower back area, whereas your rotation will capture your thoracic spine. So basically that bit of the back in between the shoulder blade area, you want to get as much rotation. It's quite hard doing that on these chairs because they rotate as well. There you go. That's an exercise, Jim. You could just be on here doing a great little twist.
Yeah, I'm generally lying on the couch. So.
But yeah, in terms of your swing and the mechanics of it, your thoracic spine is where the ribs attach into as well. So you can get stiffness around the rib cage, around that area in your back. So in terms of the mechanics of your swing, if you are quite stiff in that area, I would imagine it would limit your power and the force that you can apply. So just doing some rotational movements might help open up that area and just give you a bit more oomph in the swing as well.
Yeah, I think when I was a more athletic swinger of a golf club.
Which was when?
There was a brief moment for a couple of months where I thought I was putting a lot of energy into a golf swing, but I must admit the ribs or the rib area joining onto the spine around the back. That used to be the bit that gave me the most trouble. And it can be a tricky. I always think the neck and the lower back you can do some decent stretches, but the thoracic spine, that mid area, can be tricky.
Something else that can be really useful is a foam roller. So you can lie in a foam roller and do various different arm stretches, and that can be quite effective. And if you've not got a foam roller, get yourself a big bath towel and just roll it up and lie across it, and they can be really nice stretches. Just to, you might hear a bit of a crack and a bit of a release, but it's a nice way to. Don't be scared.
I hate the foam roller because it hurts.
Is it a bumpy one or a smooth one?
Smooth.
Yeah, the smooth, because a bumpy one trying to do that is just like, some people love it. It's like Marmite, but it's like, stick with
It's
a
torture.
smooth one. Yeah,
I'd
it
rather
is
be in a rack.
torture.
Me
Yeah.
pulled apart.
That's like the ball, isn't it, for your plantar fasciitis?
Yeah,
Same thing.
yeah, like the
I
spiky
like
ball.
that feeling of the
Yeah.
little spines going into your foot, but some
Yeah.
people just can't
That's
stand it,
goes
can they?
through people.
Yeah.
Shoulder work there, lower back. We've got your mid back, and then I threw in one more. So we call it the bow and arrow stretch. So a bit like in Robin Hood times, when you pull your bow and arrow and then release it. But again, this is targeting the mid spine, the thoracic back. So you're basically going to bring palms together, and then you pull one hand along the arm. One version is you can just pull the elbow back, or what I really like is to open the hand behind you, because it gives your chest muscles a really nice stretch as well. And then you basically just sweep the arm back to the front, and then you'd go on the other side. So again, it's supposed to be like you're pulling your bow and arrow. But that's just a really nice way to open up your forearm muscles, your bicep, your chest area, and also your nerve as well. So big nerve running through that area is your median nerve. So if you've heard of carpal tunnel syndrome, that's when your median nerve gets compressed down in the wrist and causes all the tingling and numbness. So again, by doing that one stretch, you're targeting your tendon, your muscle, and your nervous tissue as well.
Oh, wow,
So it's
yeah.
a bit of a triple whammy.
Yeah, oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And actually, all of those things there, like the key takeaways for me there were, you're not overdoing anything, you're just doing a little bit.
Exactly.
You know, just don't try and break the form, just do a nice little easy,
Yeah.
less is more, as you said. And
Yeah.
then that's all stuff you can do at the tee box while you're waiting for the rest of the group to tee off.
Yeah.
And I think, it's not just on the first hole, it's on pretty much, every hole.
Yeah, you could do, couldn't you?
Whilst you're talking and having a stretch.
I was going to say, I bet you all have a good chat and a little chinwag on the way around. So
Yeah.
you could just be doing those stretches as you're chatting and catching up then.
Just got this
You need
image
to do
now.
a little video for me of you all doing it.
Of doing the YMCA down the fairway. What's Jim doing? Oh, easy. Yeah, I'm doing the shoulder flex with club. Well, you're doing bow and arrow.
I need to see a video of this. I think everyone watching would like to see a video of this
I think
as well,
this
please.
is TikTok
It's going to
fodder.
happen, yeah.
It's going to happen.
TikTok fodder. This is, isn't it?
Roy
Forget-
St. David's, is it?
Yeah.
You
Forget
can
the
pick what
birdie
you dress
dance.
up as.
No birdie dancing going on here. This is straight into YMCA TikTok. Yeah, I love it. Well, I mean, you alluded to it, Denika, so we will be able to catch that full warm-up routine
Yes.
on YouTube. I love doing this, by the way, but we'll whack a link in the description of the episode.
Yay.
Or you could subscribe to the YouTube channel and you'll
Do.
just get a notification when the video goes live. We've got a name for it. We're calling it Gilates.
Pilates. I don't know if anyone else has coined it,
Yeah.
so I
Trademarked.
Trademarked.
That's it.
Today.
2025 it's
I
been
think you
trademarked.
might have to go and
Pilates.
see a lawyer first, but an IP lawyer.
Podcasts are
Intellectual
legally.
property, that is.
Yeah. A podcast is a legally binding document, surely. I don't know. Yeah. So anyway.
Pilates, yeah.
But
there
yeah,
you go.
more about that to come in the feed. I
Yeah.
reckon we'll have more on that. So this is a bit I've been really looking forward to, and I think this is the kind of real meat of the episode for me today, which is the Q&A segment. So I'll give you the questions, Denika,
Yeah.
and hopefully you can give us the answers.
Hopefully I've got the answers. Otherwise,
Jim's ready
I'm,
to fact check. Live fact checking.
Oh, they don't do that anymore.
First question.
Mhm.
So we're calling it Pilates, but Pilates in general, how can
Yeah.
that help with your golf?
So obviously I'm going to be very biased because I love Pilates.
We love bias, by the way.
Yeah.
No problem with that. No problem with that. It isn't supposed to be impartial. This is our opinion.
But I think, for me, Pilates, when you think of your traditional Pilates and Joseph Pilates, did you ever hear the story of where it come from?
There's actually somebody called Pilates.
That's who it's named after, Joseph Pilates.
Do you know?
I
I
didn't know
did
that
not
either.
know that.
Yeah. So
Frank Pilates.
really briefly, so basically, Joseph Pilates, it was during the war. I sound like the guy off Del Boy, don't I? During the war.
Uncle Albert.
Uncle Albert. But yeah, he was basically held in like a camp, and he got injured, so he was always a bit sickly as a child, and he used to go off into the woods in his underwear and do like stretches and exercises and whatever. He's a bit of an out there person, but basically while he was really sick in a hospital bed, he worked out that if he put the springs on like different levels, he could use the springs to like exercise. So if you've ever seen reformer Pilates, where like people are on a bed and they're like doing all sorts of crazy things, that's where Pilates was born from this guy.
I did not know
Yeah,
that.
and I think it was it the Isle of Man? He was in some kind of like rehabilitative hospital. So, anyways, after the war finished, him and his wife went over to New York, and then basically New York at the time, all the performers, all the like artists, they would be like, oh right, we'll go and do Pilates. So that's where it set off. It become a big thing. But when you look at the exercises to do, you had to be super fit, super strong, super mobile. Some of them are like the classical Pilates. You're like, whoa, like that's mega. But for me, I teach what we call clinical Pilates. So it's like physio led. So if you have got a bad shoulder, a bad back, there's modifications. So rather than doing these extreme exercises, they're based on the traditional principles, but you're making it a bit more tailored to people as well.
Can I have a request at this particular point in time?
Oh,
Yeah.
That when we do the Pilates and the demonstration in a little while, that you may Nish do the classic
Oh my
Pilates.
God, yeah!
yeah, no deal. No deal.
I'd
I
love
think
to see
people
that.
would pay good money for that.
Well,
This-
make me do it instead. It'll be just as
Yeah.
fun.
There's not going to be a live video about this at all. No. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
I tell you what, imagine your last name being Pilates in the age of social media now.
I
mean, how
know,
many
yeah.
DMs are you getting? We're going,
Yeah.
Daniel Pilates, yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
You
it
taking a
is.
piss, mate? No,
Yeah.
that's actually my last name.
Yeah.
I didn't realise it was a last name.
That's it, yeah. So that's who it's named after, Joseph.
Wow. Okay.
So yes, so coming back to your question about how it relates to golf, I just think it's a really nice way where, again, it comes back to you could do a little bit through the week. It's not practical to lie down on the golf course, I'm sure, so save them for doing them at home. But it's just a nice way to keep the spine. And again, I'm thinking of with all that rotational movement, it's important to make sure you're keeping your spine flexible, keeping it mobile. Doesn't mean you have to be able to touch your toes, but if you've got good flexibility, good mobility, you're less likely to have a build-up of injury then. So yeah, it can be useful.
I mean, look, the two of the absolute titans of our game, it's Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy, swear by doing Pilates every single day. So, you know, if it's good enough for them,
Yeah,
it's
totally.
good enough for the amateur golfer.
Yeah.
Do you feel if you're doing Pilates that there's different benefits dependent on whether you're a man or a woman or age or anything like that? Do you think people get different benefits out of doing Pilates at different stages in their golfing career, or is it just actually a general thing for everyone?
Really interesting in terms of women is women going through the menopause. So if you're going through the menopause, you get a big drop in estrogen, which can affect your bone density. So if you're doing weight bearing exercise, so you golf, you're obviously on your feet, but if you're doing Pilates to complement it, you're getting your strengthening as well. Because basically, when you use either a weight or a resistance band, your tendon attaches to the bone, so it's quite good for the basically for your bone density to be preserved by doing some strengthening and weight bearing exercise.
Right.
So that's something that would be quite interesting. But yeah, I mean, you can get, it's funny because my partner Lee, I remember years ago, he was like, oh yeah, Pilates. And then I actually got him to do some of the exercise and he was like, oh, right, it's actually harder than it looks. And it's like, yeah.
You're doing the classic stuff, mate.
Yeah.
You are doing the classic stuff after that jibe.
Because some people were like, oh, Pilates is just for girls. And it's like, it's not at all. Like a lot of the big football clubs now, and even like in rugby, they will do yoga and Pilates through the week because people are actually opening their eyes that, you know what, it's not just for girls.
Well, I mean, very famously, Ryan Giggs credited Pilates with getting to 40 in his
Right.
playing career, and it was big. I think it was yoga. He said he was like, I do
Right.
yoga every day for a couple of hours, sort
Yeah,
of thing.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like a massive thing in sports,
That's
isn't it? Now,
yeah,
everyone's.
recent times. So yeah, I think for everyone, there's massive benefits. And you know, you're not going to get your cardio. You can't say Pilates is the best thing since sliced bread for everything because you're not getting your cardiovascular. In some circles, if you're doing, they call it like you can do hip Pilates or fitness Pilates. That might then get your heart rate up. But yeah, it's just I think there's so many versions of it from that traditional Joseph Pilates theory that he had through kind of times now. Everyone's put like a bit of a different spin on it.
I think it's very much complementary to all the other forms of exercise that you might be doing.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
that's why the footballers and sports people in general are starting to take to it
Yeah.
a little bit more, as you quite rightly alluded to.
And if you're using it to complement what you're already doing, the Pilates could be like your resty. So you still, you're not lifting too heavy, you're not out running, but you're still exercising. So it can be used as an active rest as well, which is useful.
Doing a plank tends to get my heart rate go through the roof. We get past 30 seconds.
You're
It's
like,
you got 30
"Whoa."
seconds left. I'm thinking, oh my goodness, no.
Everything's
Plank is
shaking.
tough.
It is tough.
Yeah.
Really
And then
tough.
when you do the different variations of, one arm plank
That's
and
it.
side plank.
Or you're doing like
And
foot
you're doing it.
taps. Yeah. Little thread the needle.
It's,
Yeah.
I find it fascinating because it's something I've wanted to get into for ages. Just the things get in the way and whatever.
Yeah.
But everything looks very innocuous, doesn't it? And then you start doing it and you go, oh, hang on a minute.
And it's making sure you're doing it correctly because
Yeah.
there's loads of ways.
Oh, yeah, you
like,
can cheat
when we do
your
the
way out of
video,
it.
we will go through that, but there's loads of ways. And people aren't cheating to be, awkward or whatever. Your body will always find the easiest way to do something. And it's only when you've got someone else with a second pair of eyes, you're like, oh, right, I didn't realise I was doing that.
Did do a class once, Pilates class, a few years ago. Yeah, it was awful.
Really?
I've got not much flexibility, and I think my even though I do quite a lot of weights and I do quite a lot of cardio, what I don't do is I don't do a lot of core work, and that's one thing that
That's interesting.
probably needs to do a lot more of, and that will be
Yeah.
probably another. And there's plenty of classes down.
Yeah, it'd be good to
down the
go
road.
give it a go.
Mm.
And if it was a while
It's
ago,
mixed as well. There's a lot of men who
well,
do
this is it. I think there's a lot of people now who, especially like a lot of men, who are like, oh, I'll give it a go. And actually, you can see the benefits. It's like, again, I think I talked about my brother on the podcast because he's always injured. But like, I was speaking to him.
Jordan had to get rinsed again. Like, there had to be something else. So.
What's he done now?
So he did pull his back lifting up the pug dog, which unfortunately, on a side note, the pug dog's no longer with us now, poor Albert. But there we go. That's such is life. But yeah, he just pulled his back lifting up the dog, and it's not as if the dog was heavy. But anyways, that was
the dog not getting lifted up enough? Is that what it was?
His back's fine now, but he said he's doing a little bit of the Pilates warm up before he does a run, before he goes out on his bike. He is doing just 4 or 5 of the stretches, and that's probably what's keeping him now injury free.
Right.
So yeah, it is interesting.
This applies to me as well at the time, but it certainly did. I suffer from tennis elbow. My arm really hurts after a round. What should I do?
Well, I can't say don't play golf.
Don't say that.
No, definitely not. As a physio, we want to be promoting people to stay moving. So, tennis elbow or lateral epicondylitis just rolls off the top. Sounds like a cocktail.
It's easy, isn't it? Just a little sip of epicondylitis.
I wouldn't choose it if it was on that cocktail menu, but
yeah, that sounds a bit horrible, doesn't it? That sounds like something with a bit of yellow ooze coming out your elbow. Yeah. A little touch
a flaming epicondylitis. Sorry, I'm digressing again.
I'm not putting you in charge of the tiki bar, Denika. Flaming epicondylitis. That sounds like a flaming epicondylitis now, haven't I?
But yeah, so that tends to be when, again, coming back to tendon. So when your tendon attaches to the bone, it's your extensor tendon, so basically in your forearm. So where the tendon attaches to that piece of bone becomes inflamed. Again, your tendon fibers become bogged down with loads of water and inflammatory fluid, and that means that the tensile strength isn't as good. So in order to improve that, specific exercise can be really useful. So really simple things, having your arm on a bench or the arm of a chair and just doing on its own, sometimes that can be enough that actually if it's really sore, you don't
just
want
like rolling
any weight,
your wrist up.
just roll the wrist up. Now what sometimes will happen is the arm will want to move up, so you want to keep your forearm down and it is literally just the wrist. And if you actually if you find the bony bit of your elbow, let's do a little practical, and then just come slightly forward, you'll feel a little bit of a bony bit there.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you come slightly forward again and then lift up your wrist, you'll feel it kind of just moving underneath it. Yeah, so that's
weird,
your extensor muscle belly. So basically, you want to get that as strong as you can. So once it's not painful on its own, you could then use a little piece of band, resistance band, a tin of beans. Doesn't need to be too heavy. And basically, you want to do 3 sets of between 8 and 12 repetitions. So if it's really sore, you might just do 1 set of 8 and that's it. And again, if you're doing higher repetitions, so if you're on to like 3 sets, you want to make sure you've got a rest day in between it, because as we know, muscle breaks down, builds up to recover. So if you're overtraining, if you were doing it every single day, it could cause it to flare up. Whereas doing it, say, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, maybe once at the weekend, you're giving it ample rest time as well. So rehab wise, that's what's really useful. The epicondylitis or the tennis elbow clasp can be really. What did you think of that? Did it make a difference, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, initially, mine was just generally very painful. So I
Yeah.
probably did. You're probably going to tell me off for this, and it might not be the right thing to do. But I was like, I just had it on at home,
Yeah.
just for an extended period of
Yeah,
time.
there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
And then just took it off at night, and I
Yeah.
did that for a couple of days actually. And that
Yeah.
seemed to whether it took the
Ease it.
load off, I don't know what it was, but it seems to
Yeah.
have eased
Just
it.
to calm it
It is
down.
painful after I play,
Mm.
particularly when you're doing a very hardcore club fitting session. Second, I was like, next day, I was like, I think it's gonna fall off. But I bought some new clubs, so it's fine.
Yeah.
That got me through it. But yeah, that's definitely helped, and I will just wear that now when I'm playing golf, because
Yeah, that's
I
it.
just know
Yeah.
it's just helpful. So
And
why?
the thing is, there's no harm. I'd say to people, don't become too over reliant on
Yeah.
it. But say if you started implementing your wrist exercises, you'd find then you're probably not having to wear it as often or maybe for as long. So you might wear it for like the second half of the round rather than wearing it all the time. But yeah, they're the top tips really.
Wean yourself off.
Wean yourself off
Yeah,
it. That's it.
fair enough. Okay, this is quite a good question actually. Is muscle bulk more important, or is it better to have a strong core, in your opinion?
Oh, good question. So, and there's lots of deliberation over the core in the physio world as well. So years ago, we used to think that if you had a weak core, that's what was causing your back pain. However, it's not as simple as that, because with back pain, we know it can be physical things that affect it. So you've overdone it on the golf course, you've overdone it picking up your pug dog. So we know there's certain things that could set it off. There's
Now message Jordan with that.
Yeah.
Give me his number.
But there's massive research gone into back pain over recent years, and we also know now that poor sleep is a massive factor in back pain and generally persistent pain. So if you're not sleeping well, your body doesn't produce as much as your human growth factor. So it's a certain type of hormone. So if you've not got enough human growth factor, then your protein synthesis and your muscle regeneration doesn't happen as well. So yeah, so physical things, poor sleep, also mood can have a big impact on it. So if because of pain or whatever else is going on in life, mood is lower, you've got more stress hormones, your cortisol and your adrenaline running, and your natural painkillers reduces. So yeah, so I think in terms of like muscle bulk versus the core, I would say that generally doing something through the week. So there's government guidelines about how much exercise we should all be doing. So we should all do 150 minutes of activity that gets us hot, sweaty, and out of breath. So that might be for some people going to the gym, personal training sessions, walking, getting out on a bike, going for a swim. So that would be 150 minutes. And it does sound like, oh gosh, that's an awful lot. But you can do 30 minutes over 5 days. You could do 10 minutes on one day, a bit longer on another. It doesn't really matter as long as you're doing that total. And a lot of people, I'm wearing mine, I've got some kind of app or whatever that you can keep track of it. So
What's that? What have you got?
my little
Oh,
watch.
your phone, your watch.
Yeah.
Sorry, not your phone. So I thought you had one of those, those Whoop bracelets. Have you seen those?
No, what's that?
It's a new celeb trend or something. I think they're like 150 quid or something a month, or something crazy like this. It's an activity tracker. It tracks everything. Like it's tracking all your full sleep and whatever. Then it advises on what you need to change in your life.
Right.
Is that one of those watches which tells you that you've been sat down for too long?
Yeah,
You need
that's
to
what
get
this
up
does.
and-
It's like stand up. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But this is the next level, is it?
I won't say the brand of mine. 'Cause it's
Control.
like, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, activities. So in terms of the core and muscle bulk, don't get too hung up on that. Make sure you're doing your 150 minutes a week, which can be broken down. But within that, you should be doing 2 strength sessions. So it might be that you're going to the gym using the weights there. It might be that you're doing some Pilates and you're using your body as resistance, or it might be using exercise bands or small weights. And I think just doing a good rounded program, because if all you're ever focusing on is your back, or you're only ever focusing on your shoulder, again, I would say, and probably most physios would agree with me, you want to do a complementary program where you're doing maybe chest and arms, you're doing lower back, you're doing a leg day. Yeah, we want to be making sure, and especially as, I hate to talk about age, but as we all age and get older, it becomes even more important, because if you're not strong as you get older, you're more at risk of falls. Women are more at risk of osteoporosis if they're not doing exercise. So yeah, so everyone just
We've
do
come to
exercise
terms
and
with it,
move.
age as a factor.
Yes.
You know, and
But your bone density reduces as you get older as well. So
Yeah.
by actually doing the exercise, the strength exercises counteract
Exactly.
some
Yeah.
of it, because people just assume that you just, to lose weight, etc. You just do a huge amount of cardio, and it is effective, of course, to some extent, but it becomes more difficult as you get older.
Yeah, and what's
Your knees
really,
wear down.
it's really interesting. As you get older, men and women, your muscle actually gets replaced more with adipose, with fat tissue. So again, that
I know
means
that we do know about.
But that means then simple things like getting off a chair, people can struggle with. If you have a fall, you can't get yourself up. So yeah, there's loads. I always say, and it's a common thing to say, but like, exercise is literally the best pill. If people could just exercise a little bit more. And you know what? It doesn't have to be, like, right, that's it, I'm going to go to the gym every single day. It's small things. Get off the bus a stop earlier. Go up the stairs instead of using a lift. It's making lifestyle tweaks as well, which can be really helpful. And I just think you feel better for it. Last night I was like, oh, do I go to the gym? And it's like, Denika, it's round the corner. You've got no excuse not to go. But I was sat with a blanket on me, nice and cozy, and I thought, no, that's it, get up and go. And I felt so much better for it.
The disgraced cyclist Lance Armstrong had a good one with that, didn't he? With no excuses. I mean, his book is brilliant.
Oh,
If you take
I read
away,
that book and it's amazing.
If you take away the fact that he's lied in the
I
whole thing,
know,
and everything was
yeah.
all cheating,
Yeah.
but if you take all that away, some actual advice in there was fantastic. There was one where he said, "Get rid of the excuse." He said, "I will have my trainers. I'll go to sleep in my running gear or my exercise gear, and I'll have my trainers next to the bed. So when I get up, my
That's
feet
it.
just
You
go
just
into the
go.
train. I'm just ready to go.
Yeah.
But there's no excuse
Yeah,
there.
that's it.
Yeah, psychologically, that's a great thing. Just
Yeah.
forget all the hardcore drugs that he was doing to
yeah.
get his advantage, and then cried it in about having testicular cancer. But there you go. Don't sue us, Lance. Oh, he admitted it, so it's fine. It's all okay. It's all open season. This is a really good one, I think. What exercises can I do around the home to help with my golf if I don't have time to go to the gym? I think you've sort of touched upon that.
Yeah, some people, it depends. So housework can actually count as exercise. So as long as you're getting your heart rate up. Vigorous hoovering, Nish.
Vigorous hoovering.
I want to break free.
Vigorous hoovering. That was a brilliant phrase. That vigorous hoovering. Is there any other way to hoover?
Yeah, But no.
It's a stare up, isn't it?
Oh yeah,
look what I'm doing again.
The stairs. Yeah.
One day you might have a turn.
Well, you see, if you did your own hoovering, you'd know.
Yeah, I don't do the hoovering. There's very little housework I do actually.
But yeah, at home again, there's loads of stuff. So you could do my YouTube channel, Pilates with Denika, like and subscribe. You could do that at home. That'll keep you going.
Is that allowed?
Oh yeah, no cross promoting. What's going on here?
Look at your own thing.
Oh,
that's why you're here, is it?
Stealing our listeners.
But yeah, there's again, you can use body weight. So it might be. We say there's different parameters for what you want to work on. So for strength, we normally say between 8 and 12 repetitions. For endurance, you want to look at 15 to 20 repetitions. So it could be, you think, do you know what? I do it when my little one's asleep. Sometimes I think, right, I'll do a little workout. I've got 10 minutes before she's probably going to realise I'm not holding her. And she decides to wake up. So it'd be like, do things like squats, lunges, you can use your body weight if you've not even got any weights. You could hold a plank, you could do some press ups, pick 4 or 5 exercises, 15 to 20 reps, and see how many rounds of that you could do. So that's just like a bit of an idea.
It's like a mini HIIT class, isn't
Exactly,
it, really?
yeah. And I think again, it's just looking at what space have you got. You don't need loads of space as long as you can put a towel down or a mat. That's enough space. And there's loads of good things out there. So if you wanted to try yoga, there's Yoga with Adrian. She does loads of free stuff on YouTube. If you really want to go into the HIIT side, I think the Joe Wicks videos, I've done them in the past and they're quite useful. And hopefully from the videos that we're going to do, it might just give people a few ideas as well of what stuff is useful.
Great. Okay. I think this is a very specific question, but after every round, my back is really painful, particularly the lower back, and I can struggle to stand up or sit down. What do you advise I should do?
So, back pain is very common. I think I said this last time. So,
Yeah.
80% of people will have back pain at some point in life.
I was like, 8? Wow. That's it was like, no, 80. Oh.
80.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow times 10.
Yeah. And there can be loads of different reasons for it. So most back pain will be what they call non-specific lower back pain. So it could be stiffness in the joints, tightness in the muscle, the discs a little bit inflamed. So that's classically where you get your pain in your lower back. Sometimes it can refer down the backs of your legs into your knees, and it tends to be quite movement related. So bending forwards, twisting, things like that can aggravate it. You can then get sciatica, which is a real pain in the bum. So that's where your sciatic nerve, as it comes through back of your buttock area all the way down to your foot and ankle, that becomes very irritated and inflamed. So that can give you pins and needles, numbness, that sharp, people describe as like an electric shock type pain. So depending on which type of back pain it is, would depend on what you need to do. So if it's after a round of golf that's particularly sore, get some heat on there. So the big debate about heat versus ice, and if something looks generally warm and inflamed, ice is better. But if something's quite achy, quite stiff, a hot pack would be useful. Or get in the shower or the bath, especially like if you can get into the bath and have a soak. That means then your muscles are a bit more warmed up, so to do your stretches afterwards would be really nice. So some of the exercises that we're going to do as a warm up, you could also do them after a hot bath as a bit of a cool down and just to stretch things out. Pain relief, again, you might want to take a little bit of paracetamol. Ibuprofen is always a bit controversial because if you've had an injury, they say avoid it for at least 72 hours because your body goes through an inflammatory response to injury. So if you're then taking the ibuprofen, you might slow down what your body's naturally really good at doing. And yeah, I think that's the main thing. So if it's quite sore, heat, pain relief if you need it, but the biggest thing is movement. So gentle exercises to try and ensure that the area that's feeling a bit sore, because it's very easy to be like, oh, I'm just going to rest it and do nothing because I don't want to make it worse. But quite often it's modifying things, so you still keep it moving and you're not necessarily going to make it worse. If anything, it's going to help your recovery.
I mean, I used to get a really sore lower back, and yeah, you'd finish.
Yeah.
You sit in your car to
That's
drive
it,
home.
yeah.
You get home and you're like,
Can't get
and you
out.
sit down and you go,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I'm feeling all right now because the weight's off.
Yeah.
And you spend half an hour, usually with me, I'm just like going through all the stats and
That's
what have I
it.
done in the round.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
suddenly you go, right, go upstairs and have a shower, and you go, oh no.
Yeah.
Feels like it's seized up.
Yeah.
Which was a horrible cycle to be stuck in, really, because it meant, you're off playing golf for 4 hours anyway.
Yeah.
Add an hour at the start, add an hour at the end, and then afterwards you can't
limited.
move.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's a whole day gone.
Yeah.
So you can't do anything afterwards.
Yeah.
So it was a bit like, right, remove all of that from your life.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can imagine if you're stuck in that cycle, it's pretty debilitating.
And that's where then, so for some people, it might be like the next day, it's fine, it's easing off a bit, they're carrying on. But if you do get into a cycle where you think, it's affecting your life because you're not able to do then other activities through the week, they call it the chronic pain cycle. So
Right.
That's when it's not just the physical stuff it affects. You might not be sleeping well because you can't get in a good position. If you're not sleeping well, you're not doing the things you want to do. That's going to have an impact on mood. And then it comes back to the whole thing. You've got more stress hormones than good hormones, which then can have an impact on your pain as well. So yeah, so it's really interesting how it's all connected. So as long as you're keeping yourself moving, using a little bit of heat, hopefully then it's going to promote you back to.
What do you think about stuff like deep heat?
Yeah, so there's no scientific evidence that like one thing is better than the other,
Right.
but like if it's warming your back, you might use deep heat, heat spray. You can get the little stick-on heat pads. I had one years ago that was really good. It was like a little belt thing where you could put the hot pack in the microwave and then you could wear it. That was really good.
Got those.
So yeah, just whatever is more
Something
practical.
delivers warmth.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fine. Yeah. Okay.
Because that's quite interesting, but I don't know if it's kind of similar for if it's an ankle sprain or something like that. You always use rice, so it's when it's rest, ice, compression, elevation.
That's it, yeah.
But that obviously wouldn't be used for your back.
Yeah, and it's interesting because some patients of mine have been like, "Oh, I've used an ice pack and it was really helpful on my back," and I'm like, "Okay, great. I think it's finding what works best for you." The only thing I think of with cold, it tends to make you tense.
Yeah.
And then what you don't want to do is be tensing around that area because it's just adding to potential more muscle spasm. Whereas with the heat, it's more of that relaxation. But again, some people might say ice is better for them. But yeah, I think go with what you're comfortable with.
But I thought this is quite a good one. It says, I want to play golf for longer in life. Are there any habits I should have that will help me achieve that?
Yeah, so I think, like we said, we touched on getting older. So make sure you're doing 150 minutes of exercise each week that gets your heart rate up, gets you hot and sweaty. Do 2 strength sessions. So again, using your own body weight, using small weights, resistance bands. By doing that, you're making sure you've got your muscle bulk and you're still keeping yourself fit and mobile. There's another little thing that you can do as well. So basically, sit to stand from a chair. So if you sit, I won't do it on these because these are spinny ones, I don't want to fall off it, but if you sit on a chair that's safe, hands across your chest, and time in a minute how many times you can sit and stand up. I can't remember now off the top of my head, but basically for each decade of life, there's how many times you should be able to do that.
I did not know that. It sounds like quite an easy thing to do, but I bet it's one of these things where you start doing it and you go, oh.
Yeah.
Well, I did. There's something in the Telegraph, and it was about how fit are you for your age, and it's looking in
Do you do a test like
you do kind of test it. It's
like a Reader's Digest test.
One of them is you sat on a bench and you've got your leg extended, so you're trying to stand up and sit down with on one leg, so it's looking at your balance and coordination as in addition to your strength. So can you do this? Can you do that? Can you do that? Can you do that? You're all right for your age range. I was thinking. All right for my age. All right for my age.
Oh, bless. You're all right for your age.
It's quite dispiriting, actually. I couldn't do most of the exercises. I tried to do that one. When he's standing up on one leg, and I was thinking I was falling over.
Yeah.
I hadn't had a drink
it's
either.
Tricky. No, and it's interesting because sometimes you're like, oh, that's easy, and then you do it and you think, well, actually, that's quite challenging. And you should always. Another tip is you should always do something that challenges you as well, because your body's really good at getting fitter and adapting, and then you can end up plateauing and you're not making that physical progress. So as soon as if you're doing your sit to stand and you can do 12 with a 5 kilogram weight, you go, right, can I do 12 with 8 kilograms, 10 kilograms? And it's important as well that you're just building things gradually, because it's like anything, if you're rushing to try and progress yourself too much too quickly, then you're at risk of maybe overdoing things and injuries. So yeah, I'd say if you're going to do anything, drink a glass of milk, get out and get active for 150 minutes and strengthen yourself 2 sessions a week.
Unless you're lactose intolerant, don't drink the milk then.
Oh yeah, don't. Oat milk.
Love it. Well, I think we've covered all the Q&A bits, and that's been very detailed, so thank you, Denika.
No problem at all. Thanks for having me.
Now, obviously, we'd love you to everything that we've discussed, videos and things like that. We'll have those links in the description. We'd love you to to like the video, to subscribe to the YouTube channel, because you get all the latest updates. Please give Pilates at Pilates with Denika on Instagram a follow, and you've got a Facebook page as well, so I'll pop that link in.
Brilliant.
Because Denika always puts on really helpful videos and things like that. And we were talking about it on the way over. It's great because it's it's not this sorry, Denika, this is going to sound horrible. I don't mean
Oh,
to
what's it
sound like
gonna
this. It's
say?
not like, we're not projecting this image of perfection.
No, that's it.
You're a real person
Yeah.
going through a journey, and that's relatable, that's authentic. So that's what I meant by it.
Yeah.
You know.
And I think it's so true, because I was saying on the way down, I did a video and I was like, oh God, I look really fat in that video. I won't post it. It's like, I'm 7 months after having a baby. You know, you do see people who are just like bouncing back, as they say, and it's like, no, it is like, it's
real.
hard and it's real.
Life, yeah.
And hopefully, if other people see me doing exercise and I'm 7 months postnatal, it might inspire them to think, do you know what? That girl's got a baby, I have a baby, find 5 minutes of time. I think it's nice then to be able to share that with people.
Absolutely.
Well, how many people go, there's no way she's only had a baby 2 months ago, you know, that kind of thing, because it's just that's not me. I've only just about figured out how to get myself dressed in the morning,
exactly.
let alone
and have a shower.
Yeah, absolutely. And then yes, from us, from myself and Jim anyway, please do share these episodes, because it does really help, and you know, drop us a review. Apple, I think, is probably the best place to drop us a review, but that would be very much appreciated. So I think thank you, Denika. Thank you, Jim.
Welcome.
Thanks for hosting in your wonderful apartment.
Thanks for having us. And thanks for lunch.
Thank you for lunch. Until next time on the Top 110 Golf Podcast.